is my review of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Okay, so in this episode, not only is Myulam introduced to the nation of monsters, Tempest, and she also kind of collects some information unwittingly to an unwilling Youm, who hasn't figured out yet that she's a spy for Clayman, but we'll get to that. And also during this episode, the Kingdom of Falmuth decides to. Well, we've established that the king is not a very nice dude. We actually can't meet him, King Edmaris. We actually meet him in this episode, and yeah, he's not a nice dude, and I'll get to him in a minute. But in any case, it starts off with Rimuru meeting with his class, since it's his last day, and he also tells them that he's going to be showing them that he's going to tell them how they done their final exams before he heads out. And he makes a whole play of it that they actually may have failed, but then confesses that they actually passed with flying colors and just tried to surprise them, which they aren't happy with. And he remarks that now that his tenure as a teacher is over, that Tis is going to be taking over as their teacher from now on, and they're also going to be moving up to the next class together, which they're all excited about. But then they also bring up that he made a promise to show them the rest of the manga, he created for them, which is actually revealed to be Parasite, and I watched that anime, I read that manga, it's actually pretty good, so I can understand their excitement, and he agrees and even lets them read the manga while he deals with other things. He's later revealed to be doing negotiations with a guy from Falmuth. We never actually learn his name, but he meets with a noble from Falmuth at a bar and has them sit in a booth by themselves and read the manga silently, so that while he discusses things. So yeah, that's mainly what they do for the rest of the episode. At which point he heads out and tells Tis that she's going to be their teacher going forward, and he knows that she'll be able to do a proficient job. And she even remarks that it wasn't entirely her skills, since the kids also put in a lot of effort to do well on the exams. But she does hope that she'll continue being able to be a good role model and teacher for them going forward now that Rimuru's, leaving. But in case, as Rimuru is headed off to his meeting with the guy from Falmuth, Youm actually brings Myulam to the nation of Tempest and introduces her to Shuna and Shion, who are in charge while Rimuru is gone. To an extent, he at the very least introduces Shuna, since Shuna is kind of Rimuru's right hand advisor, as it were. So she is kind of important in the whole hierarchy of Tempest. And she welcomes Myulam to the city and hopes that she'll have a wonderful time. At which point Myulam realizes that there's a bunch of construction going on, and Shuna and Shion explain that they're actually setting up a festival to celebrate Rimuru's permanent return to the city, and also remarks that when she's done getting to know the city and its inhabitants, that she should consider stopping by the hot spring when she's done, so they can just hang out in there. And points out that it's a great place to clean off, and when they're all hot and sweaty. And she agrees to do that. So at which point Youm starts giving her the grand tour and shows her all the different things that they've accomplished over since Rimuru has arrived. And not only does Myulam kind of fear for the country's safety, but pointing out that their technology is very highly advanced for a nation of monsters, and that could easily gather some unwanted attention, even though they could easily use that same technology to turn against somebody, and that they could easily be a threat if provoked. But she also remarks to herself that she feels Youm is a bit too gullible, since Youm is basically just kind of playing into her hands, as it were. Her job was to go and survey the Kingdom of Tempest for Clayman, and Youm is just kind of helping her with that in spades by not only introducing her to all the major people that she needs to be aware of, but by also giving her a grand tour of the entire city's nation of Tempest. So now she's kind of learning all their secrets, because Youm is kind of unwittingly helping her. He doesn't realize she's a spy of Clayman yet, so he doesn't realize, and she also apparently doesn't realize that she's actually secretly a Majin. So he's a little bit, well, so yeah, she basically just comments how Youm is kind of being a little bit stupid, which, to be fair, he is. He didn't really do a background check on Myulam before adding her to his crew, so he has no idea what's going. So he really has no idea who Myulam actually is and what her goals are. So he really doesn't know what's going on. But in any case, the final stop that he actually makes is the training grounds where the Goblin Riders go to train under Hakuryu, and not only are the Goblin Riders just passed out from being beaten black and blue by Hakuru's training, but Grucius is there as well, and he's not really, well, Grucius quickly realizes that he's out of his league as well, and realizes that, and asks Gupta if it's like this every time they train, and Gupta just responds that yes, it is. But in any case, all the Goblin Riders get back up on their feet because they've done this before. At which point, Youm greets Grucius and introduces her to Myulam, and tells him that she's the newest member of the crew and she's actually pretty strong. And which point Grucius quickly realizes that he could test her by actually fighting her in combat. And so he and Youm strike up a bet. If Grucius is able to defeat Myulam, then Youm will be his subordinate, and if Grucius is unable to defeat her, then the reverse happens. And case in point, Grucius kind of gets his ass kicked, so you can tell which one of those actually happened. And so Grucius is defeated by Myulam in about 5 seconds, and remarks that most likely means that he's now part of Youm's crew. Although he does remark that if Carrion does ask him to do so, he will not hesitate to turn on Youm and kill him if Carrion deems him a threat. So yeah, he's more than willing to do. So yeah, Youm accepts those conditions and welcomes Grucius with open arms anyway. At which point, Gupta gets a brilliant idea. So we've established Hakuru's a bit of a nut. He's a bit of an authority nut, and he's a little bit rough. And he constantly trains the Goblin Riders to a fine point, which frequently leaves them back black and blue and unable to actually catch up. So Gupta decides to use Myulam's magic to cheat, as it were. He decides to challenge Hakuru to a one-on-one fight, and unbeknownst to Hakuru, they actually plan as a hidden magic circle right in front of where Gupta is standing, which in theory should incapacitate Hakuru long enough for them to actually beat him. But as it turns out, that's not the case. Hakuru sees it through it immediately and proceeds to defeat all of the Goblin Riders, as well as Grucius and Youm, for basically encouraging it. At which point he scolds the three of them for trying to go up against him and using a cheap trick to defeat him, and also points out that they should think twice before going against him next time. And Myulam tries to apologize for her involvement, but Hakuru merely disregards her, pointing out that she was just doing what the three idiots told her to do. So she has no real reason to apologize. At which point the group all go to the hot springs, pointing out that, and Gupta takes this opportunity to vent, pointing out that he's never been able to defeat Hakuru, and he hopes one day he'll be able to, and it unnerves him that he's nowhere near strong enough to take on his master, but that's not going to discourage him from trying. And Youm agrees, noticing that Gupta's resolved, and also the conversation then shifts to Myulam, pointing out how he's proud of how strong she is, and knows that she'll one day make a great addition to his team. And then also the conversation ultimately turns to how hot she is, and let's just say the girls can hear them from their side and become offended. So yeah, they become offended because they kind of remark how hot Myulam is and how they hope that she'll be willing to conceive one of their children, which upsets Shuna, who is a little bit offended that the conversation just kind of turned to that, and both Shion and Myulam agreed to give them a stern talking to later once they get out. So yeah, that happens off screen, but it's kind of just a little side thing that they do. It's really funny because even Gupta realizes that, hey, all's fair in love and war, so I might as well get involved as well. But yeah, But yeah, it's also implied in this scene that Youm actually has a crush on Myulam. He's the one who started he's the one who actually started this whole conversation, and the reason the conversation turned to that because it did. But it's implied here that he actually does have a crush on Myulam, and when both Grucius and Gobta intervene, saying that they plan to sweep her off her feet as well, he immediately takes offense to that and points out that she's not theirs to win the heart of. So, yeah, it's clear from this conversation that Youm thinks highly of Myulam and does kind of care for her quite a lot. So, yeah, it's quickly clear that that's what's happening. But in any case, it then turns to Rimuru, who is sitting in a bar, who, as I said, is sitting in a bar talking to a noble from Blumund while his kids read in a booth in the corner and just kind of stay there silently. And the two kind of talk about trade negotiations between Tempest and Blumund, namely that Tempest's alliance mostly functions to serve as a buffer between the kingdom of Blumund and any attackers, pointing out that if Tempest gets attacked, that if Blumund gets attacked, Tempest will most likely be the first line of defense. But the reverse is also true, that saying that if Tempest does get attacked, Blumund will be there to aid their help. And this conversation is even more important because, as I said earlier, the kingdom of Falmuth is scheming something, as evident by the title. And the noble even remarks as well, saying that pointing out that they're quickly becoming a major trading route, and the king of Falmuth, Edmaris, he might get offended by that and start to, well, basically he might decide that Tempest is a threat to him, and that they should be careful and keep their guard up, and Rimuru promises he will. And sure enough, as it turns out, Edmaris is meeting with his delegation and is discussing what to do to actually stay in power, as he were. He wants to stay the trading center of the world, so he wants to get rid of any budding competition before it happens. And at which point, and while he realizes that he doesn't have enough forces, one of his advisors, Raymond, a guy from the church, he responds that he actually has a plan. That they're going to declare Tempest a nation that's in opposition to the will of God, and they're going to use that as an excuse to attack it. So, and sure enough, Edmaris is happy about this idea, and also remarks that they should bring their 3 otherworlders that they've procured to help them take over the nation. And sure enough, they send somebody to tell Shoko, Kyoya, and Kirara to basically help out with the invasion. And while they're openly against it, they realize they have no choice and agree. At which point they have a bit of a conversation about the world and how they have differing views of it, but they don't really like it. Namely that Shoko is a lot stronger than everybody else, and he kind of knows it. So, yeah, and his entire philosophy is that he wants to get stronger. Meanwhile, Kirara doesn't really care about the world because the world doesn't have any of the things she likes from her old world, and just kind of wants to return home regardless, and hopes that one day they would be able to do that. And Kyoya is interested to see what kind of nation Tempest actually is, and regardless of how the outcome actually goes, he's hoping to learn a bit more about the world that he's found himself in. So again, all 3 of them have different philosophies about how they see the world, and they're kind of a volatile mix of characters. I'll be perfectly honest. They're kind of a volatile mix, and also Shoko kind of looks down on Rimuru because he's a slime, which we know is kind of a recipe for disaster in the series. But Rimuru doesn't realize it, but now his nation has kind of unintentionally gone to war with another nation, and he wasn't even involved from that. He doesn't even know what happened. All he knows is that the Kingdom of Falmuth might attack him, and then as it turns out, the Kingdom of Falmuth is indeed preparing to attack him, and he had no idea that was going to happen. But yeah, basically now, Tempest has unwittingly entered a holy war with a rival nation, and they have no idea that they started a war by accident. They're just kind of they were just kind of going about their business. They're just monsters trying to go about their business, building a city and a whole bunch of facilities, and just so happened to become become a rival trading center for the world, which Edmaris isn't really happy with. So he's planning to wipe them out so that they can't take his position as the king of the trading center of the world. So he just wants to kind of wipe them out and stop them. And also this episode also establishes that Myulam is now becoming ingratiated with the people of Tempest. So it's gonna be interesting seeing how she plays into all of this now that she's, well, friends. I wouldn't really call her friends with any of them, but at the very least she's earning their trust, as it were. So hopefully something with that happens. I'm not entirely sure what the plot point is going to be, but it's clear that because she's there, something is going to happen. And sure, and also we know that she's working under Clayman, so it's possible that Clayman may get involved at some point because it's in his best interest to keep his spy alive. So it's possible he may just kind of get involved unwittingly because he has no idea that there's going to be a war either. Although it does seem like a conflict of interest because the whole thing he wants to do is kind of wipe out the nation of Tempest as well. So this might play into his favor, but who knows? It's possible that I don't know. It's hard to predict what Clayman will do. He doesn't like Rimuru, but he also might want the satisfaction of defeating Rimuru himself. So who knows how that's going to play out. But in any case, that's my review of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.